Welcome back. The Trump administration looks to reform health care and tax policy. Just a moment ago, I spoke with senior counsel to the president, Kellyanne Conway. She said that the administration would like to reach across the aisle. Watch.
We would love to have support from Democrats on all these issues, Maria. I remember that President George W. Bush had 10 to 12 Democratic senators supporting him, and a democratically controlled Senate, for that matter, in June of 2001 when he was able to pass his tax package.
Joining us right now is the former chief of staff under President Bill Clinton. Mack McLarty is with us. Mack, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, my pleasure.
So one question that I asked Kellyanne is about this infrastructure package. Is that going to be a package that brings more people under the tent? Can he use that as leverage to get the other things done, like tax reform, given that Democrats want infrastructure done, right?
It has the potential to be, depending on how it's structured. There's been a lot of discussion about a combination of infrastructure and tax reform being together. I kind of like that approach. Certainly, it'll be a very different dynamic, Maria, than health care. So better chance.
How can he gain more bipartisan support?
I think he's already signaled that he wants and needs that, particularly after the health care debate, where a large number of Republicans did not support the president. Obviously, the Democrats were against it, which was expected with the repeal of Obamacare. So I think he's got to show the infrastructure is a serious program. It's well thought through. And on tax reform, I think he's got to just demonstrate, I think Secretary Mnuchin's spoken to this as well, that it's a real support of the middle class. If he does those two things, I think he can have a serious discussion and dialogue with the Democrats.
You know, before this administration, I think the Clinton administration kind of held the title for rocky starts. And but they had a rocky start with a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate.
That's right.
So what can President Trump do from now on? What's happened has already happened, but how can he fix this from now on and get past this idea that he's just had a terrible, terrible start?
Well, we were talking earlier about the strikes. I mean, I think every new administration has some challenges. We certainly did, as you noted. But on the other hand, we got our first major piece of legislation, the economic plan and deficit reduction plan, passed. Also family medical leave, and at the end of the first year, Byron, the president's approval rating, President Clinton's approval rating was 57%. So it's a step-by-step process, and I think also very key, which is I think topical and timely, with Secretary Tillerson being in Russia. President Clinton had to demonstrate that he could step on the world stage and establish a relationship with world leaders. I think President Trump has to do the same thing, and I think he's off to a reasonably good start there.
You just mentioned the strikes in Syria. Before President Trump issued those strikes, Hillary Clinton actually was supportive that day.
Almost, yeah, exactly.
In a speech. Yeah. So we've seen bipartisan support for the president's action last week in Syria. How long do you think that will last? And what do you think his team needs to do to have a cohesive strategy for Syria and the broader Middle East?
Well, it's a very complicated and difficult subject.
You've got 30 seconds.
Well, I'm not going to offer any solutions. That's not my responsibility. I would say, though, that generally I think President Trump has gotten high marks for the diplomatic and security team that he's put in place. Right. General McMaster, Secretary Tillerson, General Mattis. I think that helps with the bipartisan approach.
What is his biggest challenge, do you think, right now? I mean, it seems like the world has gotten a lot scarier just in the last couple of months. We've got Navy ships, you know, powering toward North Korea in the Korean Peninsula right now. You've got the Syria strikes. ISIS he wants to defeat. And then you've got an economy that can't pass go. What do you think is the big challenge right now?
Well, you loaded the agenda up there, but every president has these kind of complex challenges. That's why Harry Truman talked about the buck stops here. We were challenged early in the Clinton administration with a crisis in North Korea. President Carter helped diffuse that. So I think that's what President Trump will be looking there. But I think these are major challenges. But as I noted earlier, I really think he has a strong and capable and experienced foreign policy team in place. They've got to demonstrate that. But I think that's the job of any president.
Real quick, who's going to go up against him from the Dems in 2020, you think?
Oh, Maria,
who's your best
a week in politics is a lifetime. It's a long time. I think so much depends on how successful the presidency, both domestically and on foreign policy, President Trump is. It's just simply too early. I'm not going to get into the horse race yet. I'll come back to you later.
We'll come back to that. Matt, good to see you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mack McLarty. And we'll be